The seed of change is already inside you. It has been there since the beginning. Before you heard the words, before you felt the urgency, before life pushed you to this edge, something within you was already beginning to awaken. People wait their entire lives for a sign from above, but rarely do they realize that the sign has been given many times, not in the clouds, not written in the stars, but whispered into the heart again and again. The problem is not the absence of a message, it is the absence of listening. So when God says the next 24 hours will decide your future, what He is truly saying is, I have already placed inside you all that you need. Now the decision is yours. Will you act? Transformation does not begin outside. It does not begin with the world changing for you. It begins when you stop waiting for the external to align and begin watering what is internal. The seed of change, your clarity, your truth, your potential, does not grow on accident. It grows when you choose. And the most powerful part is this: you do not need to know how everything will unfold. You only need to take the next right step. That is the nature of faith. You do not plant a seed and dig it up the next day to see if it is growing. You water it, you trust it, you commit to its becoming even when there is no visible evidence. You see, there are people who will spend years preparing, planning, imagining, hoping, dreaming, but the one who dares to act in the next 24 hours, the one who hears the whisper and moves, is the one who shapes the future. Because the next 24 hours are not ordinary. They carry a divine weight. When you feel the pull in your spirit, when you are given a moment that feels heavier than others, that is not chance. That is calling. It is sacred. And your response to that calling decides not just what happens to you next, but who you become next. We are taught to believe that big change requires big effort. But the truth is, change begins small. It begins when you choose to break one pattern. It begins when you say no to one distraction. It begins when you wake up and decide not to delay anymore. The next 24 hours don't require you to do everything. They require you to begin, to move 1 inch in the direction of your truth. That's where momentum is born. That's where energy is released. That's where the spiritual and the physical begin to align. The most dangerous mindset is the belief that you have more time. Because when you believe you have time, you waste it. You delay your decision. You say, tomorrow I will start. And tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. But when God says now, that is not just permission to act. It is a divine appointment. He is calling you not just to begin, but to remember who you really are. That the strength you are seeking is already yours. That the voice you are waiting to hear has already spoken within you. That the doorway to a new life is already open. You only need to walk through it. The seed of change inside you may be buried under fear. It may be hidden beneath the opinions of others. It may have been covered for years by the weight of past mistakes or regret. But make no mistake, it is still there and it is alive. The pain you've endured, the questions you've asked, the darkness you've faced, it has all been preparing the soil for this moment, because only when the soil is broken does the seed have space to rise. The breaking was never to destroy you. It was to prepare you. And now the question becomes, will you rise? You have already survived moments you thought would break you. You have already endured days you didn't think you could carry. That is not weakness, that is proof. Proof that you are already strong enough to begin again. So if the next 24 hours will decide your future, it is not because everything must be achieved at once. It is because who you choose to be in these hours, disciplined or distracted, faithful or fearful, honest or hiding, will set in motion a chain reaction. Every moment is a seed, every choice is water or neglect. Every action is either a vote for your old life or your new one. You are not here by mistake. You didn't hear these words by coincidence. There is something in your life right now that is asking to be changed. Something you've ignored or postponed. Something you feel when the world goes quiet. Maybe it's a decision you've been afraid to make. Maybe it's a truth you've been afraid to speak. Maybe it's a dream you've been afraid to pursue. But whatever it is, it has waited long enough. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. And the moment you realize that, everything shifts. You don't need anyone to come and rescue you. You don't need the approval of the world. You don't need every piece of the puzzle to act. What you need is honesty. The courage to admit what you already know, because deep inside, you already know what's next. You know what's right. You know what is real. The question is, will you honor that knowing? Or will you continue pretending not to hear it? Too many people are waiting for permission to live. They are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect confidence. But that is an illusion. The path to change begins before the fear disappears. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement despite it. So if fear is present, let it be. You don't have to eliminate the fear. You only have to decide that your faith is stronger, your purpose is greater, your time is now. This is a sacred hour, not because of what the world says, but because of what your soul knows. And your soul is tired of waiting, tired of compromise, tired of pretending. You were not made for a life of silence and survival. You were made for expression, for contribution, for purpose. So begin. Begin before you are ready. Begin because you are ready. Begin because God has already placed within you all that you need. Do not underestimate the power of one clear decision. One act of alignment can break a cycle that's lasted years. One brave choice can change your destiny. Not because everything changes in an instant, but because your direction changes. And direction is destiny. The direction you walk today is the life you will wake up in tomorrow. So ask yourself, where are your feet pointed? Where are your thoughts leading you? Where is your focus taking you? You are a creator, not by force, but by design. Every word you speak, every intention you set, every action you take, it is creating. You are not just a passenger in this life. You are not just reacting to what happens. You are choosing, shaping, building. And that is why the next 24 hours matter. Because you are not just living them. You are using them to create the foundation of your future. Every day you plant something. The question is, what are you planting? There is no one coming to live this life for you. No one can walk your path. No one can fulfill your purpose. That is your responsibility. And it is also your gift. Do not let it pass by. Do not fall asleep while awake. Do not let these hours slip into habit. Treat them as sacred. Treat them as holy. Treat them as the doorway they truly are. Because if you knew that God Himself had spoken this into your life, if you truly believe that He had said the next 24 hours will decide your future, wouldn't you rise with urgency? Wouldn't you walk with reverence? Wouldn't you stop wasting time and begin? This is the moment you've been asking for. This is the whisper you've been waiting to hear. It is not coming tomorrow. It is not waiting in the future. It is here. It is now. It is already inside you. The only thing left is your response. And if you dare to say yes, if you dare to take that step, make that call, speak that truth, break that habit, then you will discover something deeper than motivation. You will discover power, purpose, alignment. You will feel your spirit return to its natural place. Not chasing, not hiding, but becoming. So, do not look outside anymore. Do not wait for life to give you the sign. This is it. This is the sign. The seed of change is already inside you, and the next 24 hours will either feed it or starve it. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The time is now. There is a sacred language that exists beyond the noise of this world. A language that does not require words, yet speaks with infinite depth. It is the language of silence. In our modern world, silence has become foreign, almost feared. We fill our spaces with sound, our minds with distractions, our hearts with noise, not because we love it, but because we are terrified of what we might hear if everything else were to stop. But here's a truth many avoid their entire lives. In the silence, God still speaks. When God says, the next 24 hours will decide your future, it is not simply a call to act, it is a call to listen. Not the kind of listening that demands explanation or logic, not the kind of listening that looks for loud signs and dramatic voices, but the listening of the soul. A listening that requires nothing but presence. If you want to hear what's truly guiding your life, you must return to silence. Because in silence there are no lies, there are no masks, there is no pretending. There is only truth, and truth never shouts. It waits patiently for those courageous enough to sit with it. When we turn down the volume of the world, we begin to hear the quiet wisdom within. This wisdom is ancient. It is not learned from books or copied from others. It is the voice of your own soul, remembering what it already knows. But to reach that depth, you must stop running. Stop filling your calendar. Stop numbing your discomfort. You must stop and become still. Only in stillness does truth rise to the surface. This is why the next 24 hours are not only about movement. They are about listening. Because listening is not passive. It is an active doorway to transformation. Every spiritual path, every wise tradition teaches the power of retreat. The warrior retreats into the cave, not to hide, but to hear. The monk retreats to the mountain, not to escape life, but to find the clarity to return to it with purpose. Silence is not weakness, it is strength. It is in silence that your mind stops racing. It is in silence that your breath slows. And it is in that slowing that space is made, not outer space, but inner. The kind of space where something new can finally enter. A thought you didn't know you needed. A realization about what no longer serves you. A memory, a promise, a dream that had been buried beneath the noise of your routine. The world is loud. It screams for your attention. It tells you that your worth is based on how much you do, how fast you go, how much you produce. But the soul moves differently. The soul does not rush. The soul does not shout. The soul unfolds. Like a flower opening to the morning light, your soul needs space, stillness, and trust. And the next 24 hours, if you dare to slow down, can become the moment your soul is finally heard again. Many people fear silence because it confronts them. When there is no music, no phone, no scrolling, no talking, only you and your breath. What remains? This is where the real work begins. Because in silence, the truth that you've ignored has space to speak. In silence, the emotions you've buried begin to rise. In silence, the inner voice you've pushed away comes forward again, not to judge you, but to remind you of what you're here for, remind you of what truly matters, remind you that your life is not meant to be rushed through, but lived with awareness. God does not always send lightning or fire. Sometimes He whispers. Sometimes His most powerful instruction comes not through drama, but through the still, small voice that you only hear when you stop. So if the next 24 hours are meant to decide your future, it is not because something loud must happen. It is because something deep must be heard. And to hear it, you must make space. A single hour of stillness can give you more clarity than a month of busy searching. A single walk in nature, a few minutes watching your breath, sitting in quiet prayer, or closing your eyes under the sky, these simple acts can change everything. And yet, many resist it. They say they don't have time. But it is not about time. It is about intention. It is not about how long you sit in silence. It is about how deeply you are willing to enter it. Are you willing to turn off the noise, not just around you, but within you? Are you willing to release the constant need to figure everything out and simply listen? The answers you are searching for are already inside you, but they are buried under layers of noise, fear, overthinking, and doubt. Silence is the shovel that uncovers them. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of attention. It is the sacred space where your ego falls away and your essence emerges. It is where your identity melts into awareness and you realize you are not your thoughts, your failures, or your past. You are something eternal. You are the observer, the witness, the breath, the space between the noise. And when you connect with that, you remember who you really are. Not what the world told you to be. Not what your fear believes you are, but what your soul has always been. In the next 24 hours, the most revolutionary thing you can do may not be to push harder, hustle more, or speak louder. The most revolutionary thing may be to become quiet, to retreat into yourself, not to escape the world, but to meet the truth within you that the world has tried to silence. In that truth is your guidance. In that guidance is your path, and on that path is your peace. There is a moment that happens in deep silence, a moment where all questions fall away, a moment where nothing matters except this breath, this heartbeat, this now. In that moment, clarity comes, not as an idea, but as a knowing. You simply know. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to debate it. You don't even need to prove it. You know because something within you has touched the eternal. And once you taste that silence, you cannot go back to noise the same way. You see, silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is filled with the presence of God, the wisdom of the universe, the purity of your own being. And yet, it is free from distraction, free from confusion, free from pressure. In silence, you meet yourself in the most honest way. And when you meet yourself, you also meet the divine. Not above you, not outside you, but within you. The kingdom of heaven is within. The voice of God is within. The direction you've been begging for is within, and silence is the gate. So in these 24 hours, create sacred pauses. You do not need to go to the mountains to find silence. Silence is wherever you allow it. Wake up and begin your day in stillness. Breathe before you speak. Listen before you respond. Walk without your phone. Eat without rushing. Sit without agenda. And watch what happens. Watch how much you begin to hear, not just outside you, but inside you. You will begin to notice the difference between noise and signal, between distraction and direction. And as you begin to live from that signal, your life becomes more focused, more aligned, more alive. The ones who change the world are not always the loudest. Often they are the ones who have gone deep within and returned with truth. They are not reacting to life. They are responding from a deep place of knowing. That knowing is born in silence. And you are being invited into it. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. These 24 hours are not ordinary. They are filled with potential. But potential means nothing without awareness, and awareness cannot thrive in noise. So be brave enough to listen. Be brave enough to turn inward. Be brave enough to trust that the guidance you seek is not far away. It is one breath away. The most powerful shift in your life might come not from what you do next, but from what you hear next. And what you hear will depend on your willingness to go still, to go silent, to go home, to the temple of your own soul. This is the sacred instruction. When the world grows louder, you grow quieter. When others chase noise, you seek clarity. When fear rises, you return to your breath. When confusion reigns, you seek stillness. Because silence is not absence, it is alignment. It is where God whispers. It is where truth lives. It is where your future is written before it becomes reality. And in these next 24 hours, if you are willing to listen, you will remember what you were born to do. There is a sacred threshold that every human soul must cross at some point in life. It is not marked by fanfare. It is not accompanied by applause. It is quiet, invisible to the world but monumental within. It is the moment when you stop waiting and start taking responsibility. The moment you stop blaming your circumstances, your past, your environment, or other people, and you realize that your life in its entirety is yours. This is not a burden, it is freedom. because the moment you accept full responsibility, you regain full power. Responsibility is not a heavy word. It is not punishment. It is ownership. It is your sacred agreement with existence. It says, I am not here to be controlled by what happened to me. I am here to create from it. You see, many people believe they are powerless because they have confused responsibility with fault. Taking responsibility for your life does not mean you are to blame for the pain you've experienced. It means you no longer allow that pain to define what comes next. It means you step out of the shadows and reclaim authorship over your own story. There is no transformation without responsibility. There is no peace without responsibility. There is no mastery of mind, no spiritual clarity, no purpose that can unfold unless you are first willing to say, this is my life. I choose how I meet it. It's easy to wish for change. It's harder to become the kind of person who causes it. And that journey begins when you stop expecting someone else to save you and start being the one who moves, who decides, who shows up. Not later, not tomorrow, now. The next 24 hours will test your alignment with this truth. Every moment you will be given two choices, to respond with power or react with pattern. You will be tempted to fall back into habit, into excuses, into distraction. But something within you already knows that the time for delay has ended. The time for pretending you don't know your next step, it's over. This moment is asking for a new level of integrity, and integrity begins with self-responsibility. Ask yourself, where in your life are you still waiting for someone to give you permission? Where are you holding on to resentment instead of rising in discipline? Where have you handed over your power to your emotions, to your history, to your doubts? These are the sacred questions, because every place you still blame is a place you have not yet healed. Every place you still resist responsibility is a place you have not yet taken full ownership of your potential. This is not about perfection, it's about awareness. The moment you become aware of your power to choose, you can no longer pretend to be helpless. You can no longer lie to yourself and say, I can't. You begin to say, I can, and I must. That shift changes everything. Because your decisions are no longer made by fear, they are made by purpose. And when you act from purpose, the entire universe begins to align with your movement. We live in a world obsessed with control, controlling others, controlling outcomes, controlling appearances. But the highest level of control is not external. It is self-mastery. The discipline to govern your own thoughts, the humility to regulate your emotions, the wisdom to pause before reacting. That is true power. And it only comes through taking responsibility. Responsibility for your reactions, for your words, for how you show up, even when no one is watching. That's the path of the warrior. That's the path of the awakened one.